Welcome, everybody. Sorry for the wait. Got a couple things going on here, all too many at the same time. Been dog sitting for a friend of mine who's having surgery. And so her dog has more specific dietary needs. So it takes a while to prep everything. And I've been getting over a little bit of pneumonia, which is so much fun. So yeah, hasn't been the smoothest road as of late. Let me get rid of this loading screen and open that up. How you guys doing? KG. Yeah, that angle was not the best angle. I wasn't a big fan of that shot, but it's all good. Yeah, we're getting there. The glasses are still not perfect, but Doug E, what's up, sir? How you doing? Anyway, I'm not sure this lighting is really helping either. It's a little odd. It looks a little off still, but I think it's minor things. I think it's mostly I think it could be the glasses, really. The eyes are a little too disconnected. Yeah, I think we're getting there. Got to add some actual eyebrows too, so I think that it helps make him look a little bit more normal, human. But with the scan that we got from Cyberpunk, obviously jaw and nose has to change because it's not a neutral expression, but I'm feeling like it's getting pretty close. I mean, I feel like we're there. I mean, I'm not sure that I can do too much more to the face to make it look any more like Keanu versus a neutral expression, right? Because obviously this expression is not neutral. So, but for those curious and critical, this is the scan from Cyberpunk. I mean, this is what they used, for the game. It definitely looks like him in the game. But taking this and then having used ZProject to get here, I mean, the adjustments that had to happen happened. So we got the nasal flare and we got some of the nasal label fold emphasized, cheeks, lower eyelids, and then all the scrunching up in here, forehead and brow. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things like the nose where it's like the angle, I don't have that same expression from any other angle. So it's like certain things about the nasal flare, I'm like, not sure I'm happy with it. But then when you look at this, it's like there's even more extreme changes to the nose. Like I sort of compromised and brought it down a little bit because if I were to match that from this angle exactly, it's going to look even more. The flare is even more like the nostrils have opened up even more, and you have less of the septum kind of calming. So, it's all kind of a little bit of a compromise now, a little bit of a taking artistic license a little bit to figure out what looks best. So, just going to revisit the face a little bit here, and then I'm going to move on to I don't know, tidying up. I think someone got pissed last time because I was working on the teeth a lot. I know, sorry. I just wound up ranting about or speaking about movies and something else. I don't know, but just gonna tidy up some stuff here, and then I think we're gonna move on to the body, I guess, right? the next step? Oh. Hey, you ate, buddy. Relax. No more. Sorry, my corgi's here begging me for. I think he smells the banana I have here too, so he's probably begging for that. I forget. Is there a way when you start up ZBrush? Is there a way to turn off dynamic so it doesn't always turn on whenever you start ZBrush up? I forget if there's a way to permanently disable that because it's so annoying. I really hate dynamic brush. I never use dynamic. Okay, Dougie. I don't really get the story, the point of it. Weird. Uh, um, realistic work. Trying to use simple models or vice versa. What is harder? Starting with realistic work and then trying to do simple models or vice versa. I mean, I think everyone should start simple and then go more complex. That just makes more sense. I think you always want to start. You want to start with basic shapes, that form complex objects and shapes. That's just basic art. 101. You draw a circle, you draw an egg. There's the basic shape of the head, right? Um, Egg intersecting circle. Uh, yeah, so I would say always start simple and then get more complex. You could make a stylized version of Keanu, let's say, has all the basic landmarks of the face there, and then push that forward and make it more realistic, right? You could go backwards too, but it would obviously be a longer trek to get to the realistic and then go back to unrealistic or stylized versus just building basic shapes up to a stylized look and then leaving it there, and then just you emphasize certain proportions to make it look more cartoony or like Disney style, like bigger eyes, certain shape, distance between each other, small nose, like all those classic, almost semi-anime kind of looks. So if we're talking about people, i7 player one. I mean, if your Photoshop question is simple, sure. I mean, I don't mind. Somehow struggle now to do simple stuff. We had to start with realistic humans and ZBrush Clash. I mean, it could be that your proclivity is just more toward realistic, I mean, but it's all about what you want to do, I mean, not everybody necessarily enjoys or should be doing all kinds of different styles, I mean, I feel confident I can do all kinds of different styles, but I don't like doing all kinds of different styles. I like variety in the topics and the creatures or the people because I don't really care about, I can do people just fine. I don't love it. I love animals more, creatures more. But that being said, I'm not, I can do stylized, but I'm not a huge like fan of it. Like I don't love Disney. You know what I mean? I love certain stories they might have. Like I really love Lion King, even though they stole that from Kimba. I mean, I love their execution of that whole storyline. And I like more Don Bluth. Like I really loved Land Before Time, Secret of Nim, the darker stuff, the stuff that was a bit more gut punch and more serious, more mature a little bit. Just darker, I guess. All Dogs Go to Heaven. American Tail. For me, like Disney wise, it's like Lion King, and then I guess the newer stuff that I've actually enjoyed would be um, Zootopia and Big Hero 6. A lot of the Pixar stuff, don't really care for. Never really like Toy Stories. Always was kind of whatever. Don't really care. They're entertaining, interesting to watch when they first came out because it was like, oh, CG, fully CG film, cool, interesting. I always watched these videos went back in the '90s called The Mind's Eye, and they were like this collection of all the greatest or newest CG tests, and shorts that they had made, like mostly a lot from Pixar, I think some from ILM, and then some other random places, random people, contributed. And that was always interesting to me. So I always viewed like Toy Story and a lot of the other early CG stuff by Pixar as just like, decent stories with like cool, interesting visuals. But I was never like, yeah, it's Disney. I just don't care. um, anyway, sorry, tangent. But that being said, I'm more a fan of realistic. Jurassic Park is what blew my mind as a kid, not anything that was more simplistic looking. It was entertaining. It was interesting, right? Like, but it wasn't like wow. It didn't take my imagination by storm. So anyway, that's just me. I know it's fine. It's a lot of people want to do Disney or want to do stylized characters, and I definitely like a lot of different stylized characters out there. Just not a big fan of Disney because most of their stuff I don't care for. Um, you know, very eclectic, a good mixture of things. Cowboy Bebop definitely. It's one of my favorite animes, but it's not that it's an anime. It's just that it's fun storytelling, right? And I'm fearful that Netflix will probably f it up more than likely with their live action version coming out here. I think they got the wrong actors. They got the wrong people for the main roles. But oh well, such is life. We still have the original series, season 1, I guess, basically. It's too bad they never made more. Anyway, sorry, tangents. Oh, really? Just storing config with it turned off should keep that off? Interesting. All right. Well, I'll have to test that out. It's dynamic on everything. It feels pointless. I don't I don't get. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's an advantage to it, except if you got to go really big, right? Unless your scale is huge. Um, but for all these brushes, I see no benefit to it. I don't get it. It should be off by default. I feel that would make a lot more sense. All right, hopefully that'll work. It's amazing how just little subtle changes can really affect the look of a face too, because our eyes are so good at recognizing faces and what's familiar in them that when we just tweak little things, our brain tells us something's off. And it's hard to say sometimes what exactly is, but we know something's wrong. And it's kind of how it feels here with the nose being a little raised. It's like, I feel like I probably went a little too far. That's why I'm adjusting it now. I feel like the scrunching and the raising of the whole nasal area should probably be a little bit more toned down, closer to his relaxed state, but it can't be exact because it's not normal. I mean, it can't be, you know, matching his neutral face. And I think adding brows. These are the cards. These are the cards from a Cyberpunk model. And I think even there, I think I already adjusted them a little bit, so I think they're even off a little bit. But I've got to, you know, I've got to sculpt in some eyebrows now. Just help the face look a little bit more natural. Interesting, like right there, it looks pretty spot on. Obviously, there's no teeth, but now I can throw those in there. I feel like those need to come up a little bit still. All right. All right, I'm just going to look up quick. I have some files saved of reference for his face, just to get his eyebrow placement correct. So it was kind of hard to see through the sunglasses because his eyebrows are black, and then the tinting obviously is the same color, so it's like you can kind of see them right there, but it also, in the fact that they're thin, you know, they're thin and small, they're not big bushy eyebrows. It makes it, I mean, it's aesthetically, it's always nice for a face, right? To have like nice balanced eyebrows, but it also makes it a bit challenging to see through anything else. I think it's probably a good reference. Obviously photoshopped and touched up a bit, but that's probably really pretty solid. It's a pretty solid reference. You have to excuse me for the throat clearing. It's unfortunate necessity as I'm still getting over pneumonia. Not fun. It's an interesting Photoshop technique where you kind of have like the skin all kind of gets a certain tone that's like an overtone, and then you like overlay that on top of the original photo, so then it kind of gives the whole, it's like almost like digital makeup a little bit. It kind of gives all the skin a certain uniformity of color, and it has a really nice effect. You know, here obviously they're going with certain tonalities too of like browning, so they kind of like browned, whether this was dye or this was probably just photoshopped. You know, you get the hair that's a more brown tone, you get the skin that's a bit more tan obviously than when he's not, and then you darken the eyebrows, you know, because the flash here is really like disrupting how we perceive them. This is a bit more natural, but then also like it's definitely darkened a bit, and then you obviously did, you know, they did work on the eyes highlighting. Interesting. But it helps, at least, you know, really helps like identifying landmarks on the face, like this area. It's great. Oh yeah, this is a great shot. Straight from the movie. But the shadow there, it's kind of thrown it off a little bit. Let's see what else. Some of his expressions are like, he's got one here that's he's super not enthused. This is a great shot. It's like, dude, don't take my picture. Not impressed. But again, good reference for brows. This is another good one. Not that high res though. All right, I think these are, amongst all these, should be enough. It's funny, he kind of looks like my cousin in certain aspects. I have a cousin who's just like a few weeks younger than me, and shares similarities. It's interesting. Skin tones and facial shapes and little things here and there. If someone said it was like his younger brother, you'd believe it. Anyway, sorry, I know I'm missing some of the chat. I'm just trying to find. All right, I think these are probably enough. Ah, crap. That's what I hate about Windows Image Viewer. It's like you change the scale of the window at all, and then it like brings all the image back in focus. And that off angle is not going to help in this case, I think. It's good, but that darkening area, that's probably pretty good to use too, because it's straight from the film, either the first or second. I think it might be from the second. I'm not sure. But that's a good shot. Kind of would keep them all generally centered because, again, there's a camera distortion in ZBrush even when I have perspective on. So if you go too far to left or right, distortion is going to do this, you know, with your perspective, because you're just sort of locked in here. So when you move things around, your camera still has that spherical distortion a bit, but it'll then do this. You know what I mean? It's going to be distorted from left or right. So you got to keep things you want to keep things centered usually in your viewport. Working in ZBrush, because you can't move the camera. You can only move the objects that the camera is viewing. Okay. What is chat saying? It's going to be an approximation, of course, because lens is obviously different. His angle, his head's at a tilt here. I think this is probably good enough. Yeah, feels like it matches pretty good. All right, say this is camera 2. So what's chat saying? Wow, I missed a bunch of chat. Um, do we start with a sphere or base mesh? Depends. Mostly, usually base mesh, like most of the time. Like I would say, like 80 to 90% of the time. No, I'd say like 99% of the time, realistically. Yeah, no, I don't really. I mean, it depends. I mean, if you want to do art or you want to work in production, that's the other question. Are you talking about just making art for fun, like your own personal projects, or are you talking about, you know, working in a pipeline? If you're working in a pipeline, you're always starting with the base mesh. If you're working on your own, it's up to you. But I always prefer to still work with the base mesh. Like, there's no point to really reinventing the wheel. I mean, if you have access to some great base meshes that have nice clean topology already, or at least even if you're not going to use an exact topology and you're going to like z remesh or retopologize manually, um, there's no reason to start without a good base form already there that's usually provided. Like almost anything you can think of, especially if it's a human like character or a popular creature, you can find something that's pretty close, right? Even if it's like just a four-legged creature, find a big cat mesh, right? Like a lion mesh or something, or a dinosaur. There's so many dinosaur base meshes out there for either free or like really, really cheap off a Turbo Squid, like $1 or two or three. Um, it just makes your life easier, right? And it's not, you shouldn't feel like it's cheating because it's not. I mean, what it would take to get to that very simplistic base form of something where it's like a mushy, like rudimentary silhouette of the shape you're going for, that's not a huge artistic skill. Like it won't take much for you to do that, but it might take time anyway, and that's time you can save by just downloading a base mesh that already has that base form, and then you just start from there, right? So always start from a base mesh, I would say, if you have the choice. I mean, unless really time is no factor and you really want to enjoy the process of like feeling like you're totally working from a ball of clay to the final thing, it's fine. But again, it's like, is that time that you're wasting or spending getting from a ball to a mushy version of your, desired form? Is that really worth that time of life? I keep thinking about that now. Like how much time we spend. It's like it's the one thing you can never get back. No amount of money can, right, get us back our time. So is the amount of life you're spending doing something, is it worth it? Think about it. But it's everyone's personal choice, their prerogative. Um, just going through chat. Uh, kind of like it when monsters and creatures do something funny. Maybe because I like the Freddy Krueger movies. Silly moments despite being horror movies. Yeah, horror comedy. I always find that a delicate balance. There's a lot of horror comedies that I just think are terrible, but then there's some that are great, like Shaun of the Dead. It's freaking hilarious. But I think when they try to take themselves seriously and then put in comedy, it can be very jarring. I think you can have like moments of. I think when you do it well, like I guess I don't. It's not horror, but I think of Indiana Jones as having some great humor amongst a story that still can be very moving and exciting. Like the first and the third, especially, I like those two the most. I was like, I always like Temple of Doom was always felt kind of too hokey for me. But the first and the third, I love them, and they have some great moments of humor, and yet they still have they have that ride that line really well. But with horror, it's like it's either got to be all out comedy or, there's that movie I just saw recently from a while ago called I think this is called House or The House, and man, such a weird movie. Like it should have either gone one way or the other, but it kept going back and forth, and it just made it weird. So I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Again, personal tastes. Um, um, To the common man, it's gotta suck to always have your people snapping your photo. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's. I feel like it's life elevated in some ways. Like getting that much attention is not normal for anybody. It shouldn't be, and it's not like it's not a normal human experience. Like generally, you know what I mean? Um, it's got to make it hard to really kind of weed through people, I would think too. Just who wants to just take something from you or get something from you versus somebody who actually like genuinely likes you or like, connects with you. But then it's also hard because unless they're in your industry, there's always going to be a disconnect, right? But it's a shame, I feel, because that disconnect is such an artificial and superficial um, one, right? Where if like you're really popular, you're really famous, and you have kind of a sycophantic following, right? You have people that are just trying to ride your coattails and just really obsessed with you. It's not natural, and that'll fade. That could fade for a lot of them if you lose your fame or you make a mistake they don't like or you say something that's politically incorrect or whatever. It can really turn off some people, but it's like, well, then those aren't the people you wanted in your life anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Fame is weird. I don't want fame. I want to make things that people love and that a lot of people enjoy, but it's because I just feel compelled to tell great stories and to work toward that. Not there's definitely no desire for any kind of celebrity. Definitely don't want that. I mean, if it's a byproduct of so what someone does, oops, like oh well, I guess just got to deal with it. But yeah, losing your anonymity is not fun. I can't imagine that unless you have real like issues, like you have need for attention all the time, which is a bigger problem, a deeper problem. I would think that losing your anonymity has got to suck overall. It's got to be annoying. Um, Do I use PureRef? I have it, and I should start using it. That's a good point. Thank you for reminding me. I should start messing with that after the stream. I really should. I have it. It's right down here somewhere. Yeah, it's right here. Boop. I'm gonna open it. Oh, it's got to update. Okay. Um. Yeah. Why am I not using PureRef? I don't know, because I'm an idiot. Because I just haven't. I don't know. I should. It's one of those things I downloaded and I'm like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. I should use that, and then I just keep forgetting to use it. Here it is. I've only seen my friends use it. I've actually not used it myself ever. So this is my first time using it. I don't even know how to use it. What do we use? Drag and drop images, right? Is that how you do it? How do you scale things? uh, Oh, okay, so this is answering my own question here. Is there a way to crop without just scaling? Can you crop an image? All right, this is moving the whole window. And this is moving within the window. Uh, how many costs of AAA character designs in market, in game, and CG both? I'm not sure how much, do you mean how much does it cost? AAA character design in market? How many costs? I mean, I'm not sure if just your English is off. You mean how much does it cost to design a AAA character, like the average cost. I mean, it varies still because it's like every character is different. Every character has, different clothing, different styles. Like, I mean, you could give it like a ballpark price, I guess, but it really depends. If you mean like what's it cost studio, or what does it cost to hire someone to do it privately? Like what do you? I'm not sure where, what department you're really kind of asking within. Um, Anyway, so yeah, if you guys could tell, I'm sure someone probably already said in chat like how to scale stuff in PureRough. Like how do you zoom in and out too? Like that's it'd be nice if they just gave you like a little tutorial in the beginning or something. So spacebar centers everything. Interesting. Okay, middle mouse button helps you move things around. Interesting. Now I just need to know how to zoom into it, like how to within this frame, how to enlarge just a section. All right, Z lets you zoom in. Maybe you can't crop images. I don't know. Chad Schultz says he likes PureRef but forgets the controls every time. Yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm still learning it obviously right now, so I'm like getting acquainted with it. But I feel like it's not as intuitive as like it doesn't have the same standardization as like any 3D program or even like Photoshop. Totally agree. If it's cheating, then what the point of sculpting your sculpts if not for enjoying it, sharing and gaining a little prosperity for your skill, right? Quick Look is useful widget app on Windows Store. Basically, it does Mac style spacebar preview. Lets you preview ProRes 2, ProRes. Is that what you mean? ProRes 2. If you ever need that. Interesting. All right. Thanks, Hans. We'll check that out. It's called Quick Look. All right. Middle mouse hold, right, to zoom in. Right. That's what I was seeing here. Yeah. And then right mouse button to move. I guess you can't crop. Middle mouse hold, PureRef. You can even just copy images from Google, paste straight into PureRef. That's cool. Drag. Okay, so they're visible with right click. So if I just. Oh, duh. Okay, thank you. Maximize, minimize, resize. Optimize. Okay, let's try that. What if I select everything and do Control Optimize? No. Okay, that's not doing anything. Optimal. Okay, so Control P for image arrangement. So if I select all of these and do Control P, interesting. Okay. And then I guess I could just zoom into each one if I wanted to do that. All right, interesting. Sorry guys, sorry I'm learning on here. I'll be off of PureRef here in a second, back into ZBrush. There you go. Eddie3D says, I will send my message anonymously. What? Hold C to crop and click and drag. Oh, okay, thanks. C just drag, left mouse button, cropping it. Okay. PureRef rabbit hole. 20 distraction points. There you go, Dougie. Javier, thanks, man. How can we do any type of sculpt? What do we need? What? Yash Patel. Hey, Einstein, it's okay. Sorry, he's barking in front of came in. Hey, hey. Come here. Chill, dude. Treats for the corgis. There you go. All right, chill out, dogs. Okay. I think I forgot to change the live stream title. Oh, really? Did they do that again? Let me. What did the title say? All right, let's let Kyle know. All right, let's see here. Well, for the moment, because I had this lined up, I am going to use the Windows. Ein! Stop! Alright, so just because I have this lined up already and save the camera. Again, it's not perfect, I think, because you can see the ears here are not distorted in the same way as the rest of the head because of the focal length of the lens. It's different. So I'm just gonna go with this. What type of practice we need to do in intermediate level to sculpt better? What type of practice do you need to reach intermediate sculpting level? I mean, that's so hard to. What type of practice? I mean, you always want to. Well, whatever you want to become good at, you just want to practice more of, right? So, if you want to sculpt realistic characters and feel comfortable in that department, you got to practice more just looking at real people, looking at photos, doing likenesses, attempting to do likenesses, being okay with the fact that your first likeness probably won't look that great unless you put a lot of time into it. And then the payoff, the benefit, or the pros to cons will just be that you need to spend a lot of time to get a likeness to look really good versus people who are more experienced will be able to get to that point faster. So that just comes with time and practice, like anything in life. Anything you want to get good at, practice, right? Consistency and repetition. Those are the two biggest factors. And of course, doing what you're, practicing correctly, right? So you practice your batting, right? You're playing baseball and your strokes are just horrible, and you keep doing that forever for a long time. You're not going to get better, right? So you got to make sure that you're practicing well, right? That you're taking the right steps to get to where you want to be. And that's again, so it's like when someone says, how do I become a good writer? You have to read good authors, right? So read authors that you like and that hopefully many other people like. Now, if you just want to read authors you like and no one else likes them, that's fine, but then you have to have the realistic expectation that if they didn't sell a lot and people don't like them that much, you're not going to have probably any different of an experience, if not a worse one, when it comes to actually getting published, because of the reality of, right, what their audience draw is. So it's always finding that, I think, if you want to be in show business, right, if you want to make a living, being in the the world of entertainment, you have to understand it's show business, right? So there's still a nominal factor, a money factor attached to everything, and it's all about making money for whoever's your overlord, whoever's your manager, your company, your client. They need to be seeing profits. They need to see return on investment, ROI. So if you're not providing them logically, right, you're not providing them a service that's valuable, that's worth the money they're paying you, you're not going to be kept around, right? So it's all about finding that balance of appeal, mass appeal, or a large enough appeal to validate the money being spent either by you or by your employer on the project you're working on. Now, when it's just a personal project, obviously money doesn't matter at all. Time is the only thing that should matter to you. But when it comes to getting better at art, it's all about working intelligently and working hard. So spending the time to get from point A to point B, which is a complete piece, but then also being smart about how you learn. Learn from the best. Learn from people you like. Learn from the work that they've done. See if they have any courses online that you can learn from, or if you can. Certain artists will be happy to do a private session with you. If you love their work and they are nice and they have the time, if you're willing to pay them like $100 an hour or something close to that, they'll probably be happy to do a private session with you. It can't hurt to ask. All they could say is no, thank you, sorry, I'm not doing private teaching. But there are some that are happy to do it. If I encounter students who are serious about what they want to do and they're happy to drop the money, sure, I'll spend an hour or two with you and we'll go through whatever you want to go through. But that's, again, all, individual based decisions. Sorry, just checking what Kyle. Oh, okay, so Kyle fixed it. No problem. Thank you. Okay, so anyway, sorry, back to sculpting. I know I'm just blabbering and answering questions here, but it's nice to see this line up well with the photo. So I know that's like the detail right now is kind of shallow. It's kind of weak, and that's it's kind of unintentional. I mean, I think I kind of wish I would have increased the strength of the Z intensity, but there's this great brush that might work here. That's by Ryan Kittleston, I think is his last name. Kittleston. He makes what's called Ryan's Tools, and there's this great plugin that fits in right here in your Z plugins, and it should be under R, right? Yep, Ryan's Tools. And he has a great brush, and I think he just updated this. I'm not sure if I installed the update or not, but what is the same is Amplify Detail. So this is a great brush that literally does that. So it emphasizes details, hence the name. So that's something that you can use in cases like this. And it's often where I wish I had this when I was working, like when I'm working, because right now I'm lucky to be working with Digital Domain. And so I'm, doing a fair amount of sculpting here and there on different things. And it's always a little frustrating when you're at work, I mean, I'm still remote, but it's like when you're working and you're in a system that, you can't, I don't use my own software or anything. It's all through, Portal for security reasons, of course. But then it's like you don't have access to certain tools or certain things that, you have to go through the channels of asking them to upload and fix it. It's like, it's kind of a hassle, and sometimes they won't even let you install certain plugins just because it's not secure and all this stuff, and it's too much of a headache. And so it's always kind of a bummer when there's certain tools you're accustomed to using at home, and then you can't access them at work, so you got to do things a little bit more manual way. But such is life. Could be worse. now I'm looking at the hairline here. I'm like, yeah, I could probably fix this a little bit too. I don't know. Hopefully this is gonna look good. Let's take a look. Might have actually, nah. I feel like it actually messed it up more than improved it. Sorry. So yeah, Linkage Knight was asking how long did it take me to model. Well, I mean, I guess you could kind of go back through the old streams and kind of add the time up, but I'm guessing this is probably around like, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 hours now, maybe somewhere around there. I don't know. I haven't really added it up, but it's probably, I don't know, it's probably around there, probably around 20 some hours. I mean, because it's again, it's not like an exact. I'm not working on this every single minute of the 2 hours I'm streaming because often I'm answering questions or we go off on tangents or I go off on tangents or whatever, and or I'm checking something else out. So it's not like it's each time I've streamed, it's exactly 2 hours worth or more of sculpting. So it's probably a fraction of each stream. I mean, like a decent portion, but still not the whole time. So I don't know. It's hard to put an exact number on it, but long enough though. This has been going on for months because I only stream like once every other week, or in this case, I went like a month without streaming because I got sick for like 3 weeks. It was kind of miserable. Still getting over it. So yeah, so it's a mixture. But in general, I would say like any good character that I've done that I feel like looks decent, minimum is like 40 hours generally. It just seems to be about the time it usually takes, even when going really fast, like when pushing it. Still like maybe a little less than 40, maybe like 38, but even then I'm like, it's still not to my exact like my standards. Like I definitely feel like I'm prouder with stuff that's 40 hours or more than I feel like, all right, usually that character then looks fantastic, or at least I'm proud of it at that point. Like it's acceptable to me. But that's again from my own pace in my work. Everyone's different. Some people are really good and can go really fast and be both good and fast, but it won't be cheap. Right? There's always the thing. It's like good, fast, or cheap. Pick two. That's how it is in art. Um, so yeah. Anyway, what type of practice area? Sorry. Which is your workflow when it comes to hair? My workflow to hair. I mean, it depends if you're sculpting it. I mean, if it's supposed to be sculpted or if it's supposed to be like dynamic hair, like actual like strands or cards. Which I'm not sure what you mean. If you mean for sculpting like this, my approach is generally. I'm assuming probably you mean what's my approach like when looking here. Um, I mean, if it's looking at reference, then I find reference first, and then I go from there. And of course, I always try to find front, profile, 3/4, and any more angles you can find if you can of the hair pose and style you want. But then otherwise, I mean, it's just in this case, this was just a lot of like manual strokes, and then also like a lot of rakes. I think I did a mixture of the rake brush, and a rake brush and /3. This one to cut in. I usually bring it down to like in the 30s, and just do this. Just follow along some of the lines. I guess it looks a little messy, so we're gonna try to reorganize this a little bit. But again, hair's not done at all. I mean, it's still like kind of a placeholder I haven't really spent an intense amount of time on it. This is the thing I think a lot of people, they would like to see like a magic shortcut for things, and there's not for a lot of. I mean, there is for certain things. You could say that there's certain automation of certain workflows and certain tasks that can be automated and that can be kind of like a magic, like get you 80% there kind of way, but not always. And there's a lot of stuff that can't be done that way. And so hair, I think, is still one of those things that is still, no matter which way you want to go about it, whether it's grooming strands, for something like an XGen, or putting out fiber mesh from here and then going into XGen or going into Yeti or something else. It's still you need that human touch. You need that human guidance. The eye of a person is still going to be better and have that understanding of how hair should look outside of anything that I've seen that's automatically generating hair. Even if it has a library, even if there was a system that could say, all right, we can automatically generate strands in all these different shapes, a human being, had to set up and train the AI, or not even AI, but the machine learning, the basic understanding for the computer to know this hairstyle has these groups that flow in this pattern and this flow. That still had to be set up by a human being, and then it creates the library, which then other people can jump into maybe, and then just be like poof and drop hairstyles on characters, or there's like character creators, right? There's like a character creator program. I have a couple of them out there. They might also have like set standards, like set hairstyles that you can start with and then groom from there. And that's the same thing as like having a base mesh. It's the same idea. You might have some sort of generic hairstyle, like the bob, right, or the slick back, or whatever you take, the pompadour, whatever the hairstyles are. You might have some iconic multiple choices, but they're still generic, or they're still just a certain one, and then you have to work with that then to get it to look like a specific hairstyle that you want for whatever character. Just like this, I started with a base mesh of a human face, but then had to work with it to get it to look more like Keanu. So there's all those different factors to consider. And I know it's like it still doesn't quite look right, and I think part of it could be the eyebrows, and just the tonality of things, right? The skin tone, I mean, like all these other factors. It's like a clay iteration of his face, right? Certain angles, I think it looks really like him, and then others, it's like something's off. But it's hard to really think of what, because when I go again back to this, it's like that's his face, like definitely. It's the expression too, I think, that we're not used to seeing him with that snarl necessarily from any other angle than the original, right? That original image that he was using, because it's such a iconic straight on shot, and then it cuts to many other angles with different expressions. So there's that challenge to assess. But I think when the shades are positioned right and everything's locked in there, that helps a lot, because again, we didn't really see the colors and everything. You're just thrown off too. We didn't really see him in many other poses with that expression and without glasses at that moment in the movie. So anyway, thanks, Javier. Appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, like anything here, eyebrows, a lot of this stuff is just it's hands-on work, it's manual, it's one thing at a time, one strand at a time, and that's how the job gets done. There's a lot of Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to shy away from it. There's a lot of tedium. There's a lot of tedious, laborious tasks to get from something that's not realistic to something that looks extremely realistic. There's no shortcuts. There's no way around it. You've got to have the patience and the wherewithal, right? You've got to be able to say, it still doesn't look right. It sucks, but not give up, right? That's what separates the men from the boys in a lot of this world, is being able to be hard on yourself and yet not depress yourself, right? Not push yourself, not put yourself down. Like, get over that. Like, that's childish. Like, don't be woe is me. Just pull yourself up by the bootstraps, right? Like, carry yourself on. Like, move on, right? Like, got to get some thick skin. Got to get the testosterone flowing. You got to say, look, I'm gonna push through this, and I'm gonna come out the other side victorious, right? But it's all about what's your mentality going in. Obviously, I'm speaking from a man's perspective. Ladies, don't take any offense. I'm not trying to really over-sexualize things. I'm just speaking from my personal experience as a dude. To me, I have to tell myself sometimes, when I was younger especially, I mean, now it's all habit. It's all just part of life. But yeah, there's a time when you're younger and you're insecure and you're like, about your work, about yourself, about whatever, and you're like, oh, I don't know if this is right. I don't know if this is working. I don't know if I'm doing everything correctly. What if it doesn't look right? And then there's a lot of people who will say, like, I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid it'll look bad, and I don't want to. Well, it's not done then, dude. Like, chill. I'm afraid it's gonna not look good, or it's not gonna work. That's part of the process. We all have to go through that. As Ryan Kingslingo was coined as from someone else, we got to go through the valley of the suck, right? Like, we all have to go through a time when the piece doesn't look good, and then it will. That's an inevitability. If you're working hard and you don't give up, and you might even really struggle with something for a while. You might even, screw it up a bit, futz with it too much, and you're like, oh, now it's really a wreck. Bring it back, smooth it down, like reset a little bit, reset in that area, localize your fixing, right? But the point is not to give up, right? Don't give up. Carry on, work hard. If it takes you twice as long or 4 times as long as someone else, well, you're going to be better for it in the end. So yeah, so it took you a little bit longer to get from where you were to where you want to be. It's okay. Just realize that's part of the journey. That's normal. That's natural. Unless you're a prodigy, which most of us aren't, it's going to take effort and time and pain and suffering internally, being like, oh, I'm not happy with it. But maybe it's been like 2-3 months, and it's like, I got to move on to something else, or I'm getting bored with this piece. Can't stand it anymore. All right, well then move on to something else. If you're really getting that frustrated, don't hurt yourself. You know what I mean? Like, don't push yourself to the point where you're like agonizing over something and you're getting depressed or really angry. Move on then, right? Start something else. Maybe come back to that piece later. But my point is, it's all about commitment, right? It's all about saying, I'm gonna get this done. I'm gonna see it through. And it's going to kick ass in the end. And so you got to keep a positive mentality like that. You got to say, like, I know I can do it. Other people far less intelligent or able or whatever, far less capable have done it, and they've made it. So if they can do it, I can do it. And I can do it better. Like, you got to tell yourself these things. And you got to believe them, of course. I mean, it's like you've got to have some confidence in yourself. So get some self-esteem, right? Get some balls. Just do the work. And that's part of having the backbone in life, is understanding that hard work is part of how everything gets done, right? That's how a lot of great things are accomplished. It's not easy. If it was easy, every other person and your brother would be doing it, but they're not. A lot of people say they can't draw. That's BS. You can. If you have able-bodied hands and eyes and a functioning brain, you can draw. It's an acquired skill. It's just like you can build a house. You could learn to build a house just like any construction worker can, who's trained and learned how to build a house can do it. It's just a matter of desire and putting in the effort, just like anything else. I had a friend who was we're still friends, but I mean, I have a friend who's a hairstylist back in the East Coast, and I remember she was saying, I can't draw for anything. I can't even draw barely stick figures, the classic cliches. And I'm like, no, you can draw. You just don't want to. She's like, no, I've tried, Daniel, as a kid. I'm like, exactly, as a kid, and you gave up. You didn't really want it. That's the other thing. It's like, someone can say, oh, I can't do that. No, you could. You just really don't care to be committed to it because you have other desires, other goals, right? That's just normal. It's not something that you lean toward, but you can learn to be gentle with your pencil. You can learn to have control to draw a circle. These are very basic motor functions, very basic human skills that babies learn, right? Like how to put the circle into this, like the cylinder into the circle hole and the triangle into the triangular hole. Like these are basic motor functions that are slightly refined from that to the idea of doing this and doing this and then getting a ruler and doing this, like very basic stuff. And then you just build upon that. But it's patience, it's time, it's burdensome, it's laborious, it's work. It's not like it's not this joyous. It's not like swinging on a swing as a child, right? Or going on a ride of some kind. It's work, it's effort, right? And people I think often forget that and think that they often mistaken seeing artists of any kind, whether you're an actor, you're a singer, you're an artist, a sculptor, a painter. When you watch people who are professionals do something that they've done years of work to get to, and you're watching them right now in the moment, in the present, do something that looks effortless, and in a way it is effortless in that moment for them because they're so accustomed to that process. We mistaken that effortlessness for some sort of magic or some sort of just moment of they can just do it. Well, they can just do it after 10,000 hours or more, that cliche, after years of practice and hard work. Yeah, now they can do it like very quickly and easily, but it took so much effort and time and blood, sweat, tears, and frustration to get there. So it's like that for everything, man. It's like you've got to just have the spine, the guts to say, I know it's going to take time, and I'm willing to embrace the process and the time it will take to get me from point A to point B. So, why is it telling me to do a morph target? Awkward. Could it be because was I working on 5 the whole time? Yeah, I guess I was. Interesting. So it doesn't like going up and down subdivision levels. I did not know that. But I think this will still work just fine. Because it'll still smooth them out. So it'll be a little pixelated here right now. And then it'll soften those rougher, jaggy bits. Because you can see right now, you can see the stair stepping here. You can see that pixelation. It's because the resolution, obviously, it's all mesh. You know, it's all based on. You can see here the mesh. So, but subdividing up one higher will smooth that out. And just for like, again, visual appeal, I'm going to darken these eyebrows. But it's just so that you can look at it and it will look more accurate, I guess, more correct. Because these will still be covered up in some form by the glasses, but at least it's just so that when I look at the face, it looks a little bit more complete, a little bit more whole, if you know what I mean. A little bit more correct. Might be a little too dark, actually. Might actually go back with the lighter gray. Should probably sharpen this up a little bit too. The intensity doesn't matter. Should leave it where it was. We're getting there. Oops. Derp. Just tightening them up a little bit here just to kind of get a better perspective. Don't need that, you know, the soft, I don't need the airbrush. I should have tightened up the, should have tightened up the brush beforehand. But, oh well. Anyway, what is the chat saying? And get rid of the spam. Based on your experience, a Wacom tablet is a must-have tool. Oh yeah, that's like I said before, you know, if you don't have a Wacom tablet to work with, or something like it, a tablet at least, or a Cintiq, trying to work in ZBrush with a mouse would be like trying to type your name with boxing gloves on. I mean, it's a bit of an extreme exaggeration, but it's still kind of accurate. Like, you're not going to have any of the naturalistic, you know, ability to get the nuance and the gentle flow and the pressure sensitivity that you get from a Wacom tablet. That's more naturalistic. It's extremely naturalistic, you know, for sensing the human touch and strokes and whatnot, compared to a mouse, which is just very binary. It's, you know, you have an analog flow with the stylus, but with a mouse, you don't have any of those degrees. You just have on or off, right? Like, on or off, that's it. So you either have a stroke or nothing, right? You don't have like a soft, small stroke that then gets wider and thicker as you apply more pressure. So you need that from something like an Intuos tablet of some type. Lee Gibbons, what's up? Yeah. Monster MLG. Good point. He says, in the 10 minutes we are on Facebook, or 20 minutes you watch YouTube, or hours you spend watching TikTok, you could fill that time. Hopefully you're not spending hours watching TikTok. Good God, what a waste of my life. You could fill that time with art books or watching videos on how to draw or sketch little things here and there. What you dedicate your time to is what you get. Yeah, absolutely. You get what you pay for. And if you're paying with your time for just pure sugary entertainment, like the analogy of health, you know, you're not going to have much to show for after the fact, right? You got to get your meat and potatoes and vegetables. You got to have a balanced diet, just like anything in life. What you learn, what you put into your mind and your body is going to be the result that comes out the other side, right? Other side of meaning, in this case, later in your life, time. So anything, consistency is more important even than huge chunks, just like working out and anything else. If you're consistently doing at least something, you're going to have better results by the end point or by a later point in time than if you did none of it, or just really, really sporadic and then just wasted a lot of your time just sort of mediocre, you know, moderately entertaining yourself with mediocre garbage made by other people that are probably making more money than you because you're helping them make money by watching their shitty videos. So, you know, it's all about assessment, right? Evaluation of where you're investing your time. Will you use UV? Will you use UV this for? Will I UV this for Substance or some other renderer, or will this be a final 2D ZBrush image? No, it's not going to be a render at all. Actually, I mean, I'll do renders of it quickly, but now this is all going to be 3D printed. Actually, so the digital painting I'm doing right now is just for visualization, just to kind of see a little bit more accurately how things look with like colored brows and whatnot. Monster says, I've spent 10 years in Blender and watching YouTube, failing over and over again just to be where I'm at now. Didn't have anyone directly to learn from, and now I make things I can actually print itself and scratch. Yeah, it's great. Right there, see? I mean, you've gotten from somewhere that you weren't, but you wanted to be, and now you're at this new point in life. Yeah, it's a great example. It's like anything, man. Where you invest your, it's very logical. This is all like very basic stuff, but again, it's still, we can all benefit from hearing it. It's where you invest your time is where you're going to be. You know, it's where you're going to find yourself moving forward in time. So, you know, invest your time wisely. All right, so we got the brows in there. I mean, I think I might amplify detail a little bit more again. And then I'm going to probably move back onto, I think, the teeth to kind of get those at least, just I think I need to lift them up a little bit more. But I'm not going to blow as much time on them as I did last time. That apparently pissed off people. Still a little hung up on the nose, but I feel like there's not much I can do. I mean, I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, unless I don't know, unless it just needs a little bit of shrinkage. Kind of like the tip of the nose just felt a little big. I guess it kind of is slightly here. It's like there would be an expanse sideways, but it really wouldn't. It would actually be retracted toward the face more than um, extended at all. A lot of people don't have logic. This is true. A lot of people don't like to think. This is a fact of life, sadly. You will find there are a lot of people who don't like to think. And it sounds brutal, but it's really true. Like, people mentally are lazy, a lot of people, and they don't like to put in hard work. They don't like to think, and that in turn results in a cascade of other dilemmas that you can reach in life by not liking to think, by not liking to be disciplined a little bit mentally. Um, it's a big factor, really, honestly. Uh, do I have a profile view of him? Yeah, I mean, I got a bunch. But I mean, the best reference would be, and the near best reference, I guess, would be the profile of a scan, right? That's a scan from Cyberpunk, and then mine over top. You know, the nose doesn't stay completely the same when you're doing this. There is a fair amount of movement really from here up, the tip barely moves, honestly. So that's why it's just pretty close to the scan. But I guess I should probably I could do a little bit more of a Z project here. It should match a little bit better. That's probably what my eye is picking up on that feels off. Is the and there's also from the triangulation and then subdivision of that scan from the game, there's also this weird kind of like rippling effect that is not helpful. So there's always a bit of manual cleanup that has to happen here. Oh, oops, derp. So like there's even this little area here where you can see the difference between the scan and the wrinkling of the between the eyes and the nasal area. It's sort of a guess here, because there's no real clear shot of this, but it's so minute too. I feel like I could go either way. I could just match the scan exactly, but that feels like that'd probably be off too, because I don't think at this point when the skin's point up so much that there wouldn't be a bulge here, which I can even feel on my own face when I make that expression. But it would probably be slight considering there's a lot of wrinkles that clearly show where the compression and the skin is happening. So I'm just smoothing out the mesh here, and it's probably better for me to do the smooth stronger, because regular smooth can be pretty weak. And there's also, it's interesting. It might be better that I let it touch in toward the scan a bit more, because the scan is of him the last few years, and obviously 1999, 1998, which is when they were filming all this. This was 98, I think, probably even 97, one of the two. Uh, One thing that's standard for everybody is our nose and our ears keep growing even as we get older. So that's why you see elderly folks with big ears and big noses, because all of us have those organs continue to grow. So that being said, his nose would be realistically a bit minutely, but larger than when he was filming The Matrix like 20 some years ago. So, it would suffice it to think that shrinking it past the scan slightly here would actually make sense. It would actually be more realistic, most likely. And this is so marginal that really, I guess it's inconsequential to the realistic take. Where's that profile? There's a couple profile shots I have him, but they're all from the film and they're all blurry, which doesn't really help. Like there's that one. Doesn't really help at all though. It's so pixelated. Ugh. Because it's cropped in so much, and I took it with my phone from the screen because iTunes doesn't let you screenshot, of course, because they're lame. The profile pretty much useless at this point. It was used. I think I was probably checking out the hairline. Still probably sharpen it up, obviously, a bit. So yeah, these teeth feel too low. Let's see here. Yeah, I thought I adjusted his gums too. Interesting. Hmm. All right. I'm gonna do what people hate. I'm not gonna try to adjust much more than what's in the front because that's all that you're really gonna see. This will probably all get solidified, like closed up, way sooner than back of the throat because no one's gonna see inside the mouth that far. This area I think needs to be tightened up a bit more for sure, because teeth are much closer to lips. Obviously, there's not this massive space typically, unless you're doing like a puckering, which he's obviously not. So all these areas of the gums just need to be moved up. And they could even be shrunk. I want to do that so that I don't really affect the lips too much on the outside. Lee is asking, what is your primary income line of work within the 3D world? How do you choose the path within 3D to focus on? Enjoy so many parts. Concept, game model, texturing, film. Focus on one. Mark saying it's Brett Spiner. I don't know who Brett Spiner is. Brent Spiner. Primary income is usually studio work, typically. So working at different studios. It's usually where, you know, a lot of 3D artists find consistent work. You know, you go from contract to contract, usually bouncing from one studio to the next, for better or for worse, meaning that whether we like it or not, that's just how a lot of the game is played. It's how work goes. You know, they'll give you contracts for a while, and then they'll extend you, and then eventually they don't have enough film work coming in, whatever studio you're at, and so then they say, I'm sorry, you know, you and this team or this group of people are all being let go because you all worked on X movie or X show or whatever for a certain amount of time, and now we don't have that work anymore, so we don't have that income to pay you, so bye. And I mean, it's never malicious or mean, or it's never, you know, there's no malintent. It's just how their budgets go. And it sucks also for those of us in LA, because a lot of times there's much more consistent work in somewhere like Vancouver, Canada in general. You know, a lot of good work goes there, or even across the pond to London, Shanghai. There's a lot of other places that have the coolest work, and they get a lot of the coolest things, like the coolest creatures and scenes, and it's all because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to pay people there. You can get basically $2 to $1 difference, so it's massive. I mean, that's like, you know, a 50% gain in work and a 50% drop in cost. You know, so it's a no-brainer business wise. But it sucks for all of us here who live and work in LA, and this is where the industry was created, right? And now it's going everywhere else but here, really, all the cool stuff. So I wish, and I've said this before, I really wish that whether a union would form or something that would penalize any company, any organization, visual effects in particular, it would penalize them or cost them more, right, to some sort of sanction to send work outside of the state, or to send work outside of the country, especially the state, because this is where all of us, you know, this is where the industry was born. And now it's going, the coolest work in this industry is going everywhere else but this state. Like, that's completely ass backwards. It sucks. It's angering, and a lot of people in the industry, whether it's further up my chain, or, you know, or like I'm on the lower rung, I guess you could say I'm one of the workers versus executives, right? But a lot of them feel like, yeah, it'd be great to keep more work here, but they, for whatever reason, don't really. I think part of it too is the further up the chain you go, the more they're benefiting from the fact that you get more return, you know, on investment in a sense by going out of state. So the less they're incentivized to help people like us who are doing the actual work and making them the actual money in the end. But that we want to stay here in LA. We like the weather. That's pretty much the highlight here, is the weather and living by the ocean. That's basically it. And the networking, you know, the fact that a lot of the people in the movers and shakers in the industry are still here or come through here. And it's much easier to network with those people and to still get work in this industry by being here as opposed to being anywhere else in the country. But that being said, it goes back to what I originally was saying, that it's been rough. It's annoying to see that a lot of the work that we would like to do, that so many of us would love to do, is not here, and none of us want. I don't want to move to Canada. Never. No thanks. Wouldn't mind visiting. I visited before when I was younger, but I have zero desire to ever move to Canada. And again, like, to temporarily go to London, sure, that'd be fine, I guess, but not right now. Obviously, not with the whole lockdown insanity and everything that's surrounding, you know, political issues around, the virus, and people wanting to disallow, you know, movement between countries. It's just hell. I mean, it's just logistic hell. So, I mean, obviously, most of us are just staying put. Um, which again is fine. I mean, I like where I live in general, but it's just some of the work a lot of us would love to do. And thank God we still have work. Period. Like, at least that we can work still in this industry and still stay in California. But I think there's a lot that should be fixed, and whether it's politicians sanctioning certain things, or if it's we need to create unions within visual effects. I don't know what exactly would help fix it, but it's just a shame that so many of us are so missing out on a lot of the work we'd like to do because it's being sent somewhere else where it's cheaper work. And then sometimes it's not even as good as the work that people would do here, but it's because it's cheaper still, they still take it. You know what I mean? They still embrace it. And then sometimes we have to fix occasionally. It's not all the time. Sometimes then people here in LA have to fix what people out of state did wrong or did imperfectly. And so then we get paid even more to work on their stuff. So it's almost like you already don't want to pay us what we're worth here, so you're paying much less over there, but then you got to pay us almost double what we normally charge here to fix what someone else did wrong outside of the States, when you could have just paid us what we're worth the first time and saved that money. And then now you're paying us like over $100 an hour to fix someone else's junk. Like, like it doesn't, it's so stupid. It doesn't make any business sense in that sense when that happens. But it's what happens. Again, it's people in power with more pay grade, higher pay grade than I do, than I have, are the ones who are in control. So it's a bummer. It's frustrating, but that's reality. It's the reality of this. It looks like a vampire without the lower teeth. That's reality we live in. I think I'm going to fix his canines there. Make them a little less jagged. And I think Keanu has some kind of slightly messed up lower teeth, but considering you're not going to be able to get too close into this, I think keeping teeth more in the perfected realm is fine. All right, so yeah, these teeth are way out of whack from the lower jaw. Sorry. All right, what else we got in chat? Uh, which is the best freelance site for 3D model? The best freelance site for, I'm not sure what you mean, for to work for, or to buy 3D models from, or to model to sell on. I'm not sure, Shrey, what you really mean. Gain friends and then lose them. Oh, you mean from work? Yeah, that happens. But I mean, you don't lose them. You just lose working coworkers, but you still stay friends. And then that networking helps strengthen your future prospects too. Um, Lee says it's so interesting. I work in London at a games company and a motion graphics designer. Been learning character design for the past year, and I'm pretty uninformed of that info. Maybe it's good I'm in London. Yeah, I mean London gets a lot of good work. I gotta say, like London ILM. You got Double Negative there. Double Negative does awesome. Is it Double Negative? Yeah, DNeg. They do some amazing. I mean, they got some killer stuff. They worked on like one of the. I think about it a lot because I loved the film and I would have loved to have worked on it. They got Interstellar and they did a lot of the stuff for Interstellar and it's freaking awesome. So DNeg is like, if I lived in London, I'd want to work for DNeg for sure. They'd be on my list. I live in London, sure, that'd be cool. But yeah, I think DNeg probably gets some of the coolest stuff. And then another company that I'm a huge fan of that I would love to work for, and I'd probably consider moving there for a while if they hired me. Depends on the project, but Weta Digital in New Zealand. A good friend of mine is going to be going down there soon, actually, to work for them, and that's pretty huge. Super happy for him. And we always agreed. I remember when we first saw, we both saw the first day it came out. I think the War for the Planet of the Apes and the work that Weta Digital did on that movie, unbelievable, unreal, like so good. We knew what we were watching wasn't real, but our brains and our eyes were interpreting it all as this is real. There's no question. Like they really had apes doing all these different things. Especially the shot with like the orangutan. I forget the name of her or him, but when they go really tight on the face and you see the eyes blinking and the muscles moving underneath the skin, just amazing, just jaw dropping, beautiful, and like they pull in and out of focus and you get the bokeh effects in the background. It's just bananas, dude. Just no pun intended. Just crazy, just gorgeous work. So Wed is really somebody that I highly respect, and a lot of people in the industry do too, because the work they do is just spectacular, and they consistently just put out great stuff. So they hire great people and they do a lot of great work. And I've met a few folks from there, and they were great. They were really kind, interesting, intelligent people. So yeah, a lot of admiration for Weta. And I wonder if I should. I think the size is about right. I should probably redo this slightly. Again, I don't think actually these should be that far back. I think that should actually be a bit more forward. Maybe slightly. And then I gotta move the gums. Yeah, I feel like the gums probably need to move more than anything else here. We're almost at time, so I'm gonna say now, like, if you guys have any last questions or curiosities, if you want to throw them in the chat, please feel free. But then once 4 o'clock rolls around, I'm gonna bounce and continue to recuperate. Oh, that was weird. Huh. Is this a new feature I'm not aware of? Because I just updated to 21.6.6. Normally, this is just a smooth line. It doesn't have that angular. That's completely different. Huh. Are you guys familiar with this? Because I haven't. Because at work I've been using an older version of ZBrush, so I haven't even dabbled in my own updated version until right now, and that is totally new. I'm not sure if I like it or not, because I kind of like an organic line. What in the heck? I feel like that should be on the curve. No, that doesn't make sense. Lasso, but then how do I smoothness? Is that where? No, because that's still... That's weird. Is that a glitch, or is that like a new feature that they haven't told us about? Bananas. That's weird, man. I don't know if I like that. I miss my old just normal lasso. Oop, autosave. Um, it's so interesting. Okay, extended question: is Maya mandatory? Yeah, pretty much. I don't really like Maya, but I mean it's so powerful and there's so many things you can do with it, and it is a standard. Yeah, it's Maya's pretty mandatory for sure. I mean, I had to be forced to learn it. You know, as I've worked through different studios, and it's like you got to know what to do with topology and UVs. That's really kind of it when it comes to modeling. And basic animation, which is like pretty easy once you learn. Like hit S to make a keyframe, do your rotations or adjustments to do like at least movements or turntables, like really basic stuff. It's just keyframe the beginning of where you're starting, wherever the object is supposed to be, scroll to the whatever key is the next keyframe, do your adjustments to the model, then hit S again to make a new keyframe, and then if you tween between those two, you scrub, you'll see the model do whatever adjustments happen between those 2 points, and then carry on so on, so on and so forth for further animations, very basic animation, of course. That's not entailing rigging, which is a whole other beast. But yeah, so some really fundamentals of Maya are important, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's easy to learn. It's definitely coming from ZBrush, or even Modo. I loved Modo when I was learning that for a while. When I was at Sight and Sound Theater, that's a great program. I mean, it's almost like Modo is sort of like if ZBrush and Maya had a baby, kind of. I really like Modo a lot. It made a lot more sense to me than Maya. I've learned just to deal with Maya because it's the standardized tool. It's the standard tool for animation and everything else pretty much in CG. Even been learning to do some sculpting in it now, sort of as a necessity for certain projects. But it's weird doing sculpting in Maya. It's not at all like as intuitive or nice as it is in ZBrush. But it's doable because they import a lot of the brushes and things. Maya incorporates a lot of the brushes and whatnot from Mudbox. And I remember using Mudbox back when, like, early 2010s, when it was still a quote unquote like competition for ZBrush. But I still prefer ZBrush over Mudbox. But there are certain things that Mudbox can do that ZBrush doesn't do quite as well. But they're minor things, and they're things that I think they could make ZBrush do well if the powers that be would simply embrace improving aspects of ZBrush, which I know is boring. But I would love to I'd love to ask Ofair to just help us incorporate some of the regular pipeline functions and certain aspects that we see as standard in many other 3D programs. I would love to see that happen in ZBrush, even though it's not artistically exciting, it's not super creative. It's sort of just bringing the ship up to a certain level of tide, like everything else. But it would be really helpful, especially in pipelines where what is going on with this thing? This is so weird. Ugh, I hate this now. What is this? Why is it doing that? Doesn't make sense. Why is that lasso so weird? That's just pissing me off. But yeah, anyway, there's certain things that I would love to see adjusted in ZBrush just to help match a lot of the standards that we have to do in production, because it's such a great tool and I love working in it so much that I rather would not do any sculpting in Maya. But at times when it's easier to stay in Maya, not futz with exporting and importing or trying to go Z and back and forth when they don't have GoZ even installed on Maya in some studios, many studios. So it's like just to be able to have certain standards adhered to by both by ZBrush that's commonly shared in other programs, like a real physical camera. But I know it's asking a lot because that's sort of fundamental to a lot of the aspects of ZBrush, like its G code and whatnot. I mean, it's Z code. I know that's like a rewrite of so much, to have that be something, but Just to have a real physical camera, because they got like the camera alignments right, so you can like say 35 millimeter in here and or 100 millimeter, and it'll match and then match in key shot, but it won't. It's still not a physical camera that we can fly around and move in 3D space and then move into the model, right? We're fixed camera and moving everything else in front of the camera. So that's always a bit, frustrating that we can't just take a Maya camera and bring it into ZBrush, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing, or a set of cameras. Like that's still not quite there, and that's unfortunate. But anyway, sorry, I don't mean to just complain, but certain things would be just fantastic if they were adjusted in ZBrush to match other standards. Even if it was just an option you could tick on or off, you know what I mean? To have like standardized aspects versus non-standard or ZBrush standard aspects, just so that it would just play nicer in a pipeline. That'd be great. But c'est la vie. Alright, and the back teeth really don't matter. But I'm still just going to move them around really quick because I'm a little OCD. So yeah, cool trick for those who don't know. If you select a move topological and bring it down to 0 or to 1 brush size, you can grab individual meshes, individual objects, even though it's in the same subtool. These are all, their own polygroup, their own mesh. So let me turn off the texture. You can see here the different colors. So now you can select, based on edge flow, I guess you could say. If they're not connected, you know what I mean? Like, these are obviously all separate. They're their own little caps. You can move them individually by just going to move topological, setting it to 1, and just tap and move around. And this is one of the aspects I love about ZBrush that is not really at all in Maya, and that I hate about Maya, is being able to, but it's always about control and precision versus what some would call muddiness or lack of precision, right? Imprecision. There's that the freedom then is also tempered by control. And there's always that. It's also like a society. It's the same kind of challenges. It's having too much freedom. Having freedom is great, but then you've also got to figure out how to guide it and control it in some ways. And so here it's like you have all this freedom in ZBrush where you can just be like, oh, I get to touch all these different things. Yeah, this is great. But like we don't have an attribute box, right? Where we've seen where all the translations have changed, right? We don't have each subtool has its own history, right? Which is another thing that's like great in ZBrush, but it lacks then the translation box, I should say, where you have translation, rotation, and whatever the other third one is, I can't think of it right now. But you have your XYZ axes, and it's like, well, where has it been translated? Now, how has each one been rotated? And you have that whole aspect of control in Maya. But in ZBrush, you don't have that. But on the flip side, then, every subtool, like I said, has its own history, which is awesome, but then also can really fill up memory after a while, and it can cause a crash if you just let it keep filling up and you work for hours and days on end. So it's always like a push-pull, you know what I mean? Like there's a inverse relationship between aspects in each program. So anyway, the struggles of life. First world problems could be worse. So I'm giving Keanu perfect lower teeth, even though I know they were probably a little bit jumbled from what I remember. It's all good. I should probably fix those canines too, though, because I don't want it to look like vampiric. It's a little sharp, a little pointy. But anyway, sorry, yeah. Last minute questions, last minute statements. Why should people who want to work in the industry be forced to live in LA? We're from all over. No, I'm not saying they should be forced to. You misunderstand. Totally. Certainly glad I'm not. It's not up to you. No, dude, you got it completely wrong. No, I'm just saying that a lot of the work that started here, that's based here, should be here. Or should at least be able to be here, because it's not, because it's all about just the money. It's all about what's cheaper. So I'm not saying everyone should be forced to work here, not at all. But right now we're forced to have to go outside the state, outside the country, to get a lot of that work that has originated here. My point is, if the studio is based in America, then the work should stay in America. if like, like Wallace and Gromit, it's based in the UK, right? Like Nick Park, I love his work, I love his stuff. It's only fair that people in the UK would work on Wallace and Gromit and not people in the US because it originated there. It's that country's property. It's that country's creation. It's there. So it's just, I just look at it that way. Like Hollywood produced work, or creators from LA or creators from America should have that work stay in the country at the very least, if not in the state where the industry has birthed that work. That's what I'm saying. So like a lot of the work, ILM created so many great things for Jurassic Park, right? And now a lot of that work is being farmed out to ILM London because it's cheaper. And it sucks because a lot of us would have loved to have done some of that work here, but we can't unless even if we wanted to move outside the country, they won't hire a lot of Americans because of the fact that they'll have to either pay them more or then pay for their immigration into the country on a visa. And it's just hell. It's just a lot of other crap that's just really annoying. So got my killers. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying all cars should be made in Detroit. It's not an accurate analogy to what I'm saying. California is where all the major studios are at. Orchestral studios, film studios, and art studios. Yep. To sell models or gain clients. Oh, okay. Sheree, I think the biggest ones are Turbo Squid, CG Trader. Might be a little shady though. I don't know. Sometimes, I don't know. It's like, I'm not sure how much the sites are at fault versus like individual users taking and uploading other people's models are at fault. So just tread with caution. But that's also the risk you take whenever you sell something, is that someone could easily buy it and then try to resell it. So keep an eye out. Once you put something out there, if you value it or if it's worth a lot of money, be careful because someone could just buy it and then resell it cheaper somewhere else. And so you've got to be able to like be ready to, either roll with the punches, and or go after them and file a complaint with the site, to say, hey, there's a problem here. They've taken some of my property and are reselling it. So, make sure to keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. So anyway, sorry, we're about at time. I know I started a little late, so I'm going a little late. Let's see what else. Lazy mouth, curve steps, understroke. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Is it lazy mouse that's causing that? I never turned it on for that. Specifically, like I never did, so that's the weird thing. There's that, and then yeah, I guess it looks like lazy mouth, but I don't remember adjusting it for this. The curve mode's off. Oops. Okay, lazy mouse is on. So what if I just turn that off? Is that... okay, yeah. Wow. I guess, did I bump something that turned that on? Is there a shortcut button to turning on lazy mouse? Oh, L. So maybe I bumped L. Or maybe that was when I was messing with... Maybe that's when I was messing with PureRef. Yeah, that fixed it. Thank you. All right, last few things here. Let's go through the rest of the chat, and then we're done. Quick save this. Yeah, thanks Lee and Chris. Yep, I see the ZBrush Nightbot is throwing in the links for ZBrush Live, the Sculpt Off, all that stuff. It's coming in October. Yep. Chad Schultz says, wow, pro tip. Is that in reference to the going to one and the move, or the lazy mouth? Excuse me. Do you do retopo? If so, what's your software preference? I mean, sometimes, yeah, it depends. It's either Maya or ZBrush, really depends. I can move pretty fast in ZBrush when it comes to topology. But, I can do fine in Maya too, but I just don't like Maya as much. But yeah, again, it's about control. And if certain things are really tight and you need to get that precision, ZBrush can be really frustrating with the Z-Modeler tool brush when it won't grab certain points, verts, and you have to really struggle to get it to like connect to the right one, where it magnetizes against the wrong one at times, or it'll select every single point except the one you want. So that's where it's like, all right, F it, just go into Maya, fix it there. So that can be really irritating with ZBrush, unfortunately. I don't know why they haven't. Again, please, Ofair, fix, improve ZModeler so that it's a bit more precise in the areas that Maya succeeds in that area, because it's so close to being perfect for working in topology in ZBrush. But there's that certain level of magnetizing to different points where it's like I'm on the pixel on my Cintiq, but it's still connecting to other points except the one that I'm actually over, and that shouldn't be. It's so frustrating. It's infuriating at times because it's wasting time. It's like I can be working faster, except this is holding me up. But then I feel like I'm working slower but more consistently in Maya, while in ZBrush I can work really fast, and then it'll have me hung up on one stupid thing where it's like that, or can't select a vert, and it's like, God, if this would just work the way it should, as you'd hope and expect it to, you'd be moving twice as fast or 4 times as fast in ZBrush as you would be in Maya. So it's like, again, it's always this like push and pull against control versus freedom, that it's like you almost need a precision mode to be able to go into and then to come out of again. That would be the ideal, something like that for ZBrush. And Second Life, no idea. L for Lazy Mouse, yeah. Thanks, dude. It's been super fun as always. Thanks, Lee. Yeah, the move top of brush trick. You never knew that. Cool, yeah. All right, so this guy's spamming with Second Life, or what? No, you're saying you can get noticed by selling stuff on Second? Oh, okay, yeah. You can get noticed by selling stuff on Second Life for sure. So anyway, all right, guys. Well, we're at time, and I know someone else is coming on at 5. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful, informative, and Mr. Reeves is getting there. I know it's not perfect yet. I don't claim it to be, but we're getting there. We're getting pretty close. I think we're just about ready to move on to the body. Just got to do the hair and touch up the glasses, and then, I don't know. I think the face is probably as good as it's going to get in general. So glasses, hair, and body. So we'll see where we go from here. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thanks for hanging out and spending the last 2 hours with me. I hope you guys all stay healthy and have a good week or two. And I'll probably see you, I think it's like the second week in August, I think is when I'm going to be working on here next. So, yeah. Take care. I always get this camera reversed. There we go. All right, guys. See you later.